Greetings, science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts, and welcome to our podcast. With Ryan Sean O'Reilly, David Wilkinson, and Richard Mell. You're listening to No Deodorant in Outer Space. Now, let's get started.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Ryan Sean O'Reilly for another episode of No Deodorant in Outer Space. I'm here with Richard Mell.
Hello.
And David Wilkinson.
Hey!
This is the second half of our episode where we're covering the Stepford Wives. In this half of the episode, we're going to cover the two movie remakes, one directed by Bryan Forbes, that starred Katharine Ross and came out in 1975, and the other one that came out in 2004, directed by Frank Oz and starred Nicole Kidman. So let's just get right into it. I don't know if you guys need to do any opening comments. We kind of did that in the last episode. In this episode, Rick, you're going to do the bios and directorship. Why don't we take the movies one at a time, and we can kind of compare them a little bit when we get into the second movie.
Yeah, so we'll start with
the older movie first.
The movie from 75. We'll start with that director.
Yeah, so we'll do the
Bryan
Forbes,
like the movie synopsis, and then our analysis, and then we'll just move on to the next movie, right?
Yeah, we'll have Wilk do the kind of comparison.
Wilk's going to do comparisons between the movies and the book, or
yeah,
okay.
Wilk, instead of doing a synopsis, Wilk will just do what you usually do, the like kind of contrasting the book.
Oh, sure, okay.
So we'll start with the 1975 one. Let's get into Bryan Forbes.
Okay, Bryan Forbes. He was born in England, West Ham. That's H-A-M. His original name is John Theobald Clark. He and a school friend in West Ham were in a club called Junior Brains Trust, and his friend gave him the pseudonym of Bryan Forbes. And I have no idea what is so sexy about Bryan Forbes, but that's what he calls himself now.
Maybe if you say his name slowly, that'll make a difference.
Bryan Forbes. Ooh. Anyway, he's got a pretty good, prolific career as an actor, a writer, and a director. He's better known in... He
was also like a studio exec too, right?
Yeah. And he started out as an actor, and, he started in a lot of British films, and he really didn't break out in the States until he did Stepford Wives. He's really kind of known for directing Stepford Wives, and, it's not like he just kind of hangs his hat on that one movie. He's got a huge career, and he's won a lot of awards in Britain. Not really so many here in the States. He was friends with Roger Moore. He was in like about a couple dozen movies as an actor. He wrote Station 6 Sahara as a screenwriter. He directed about another couple dozen movies. I would say like about 18. And he was head of EMI Films, and he did another 18 films or so. So
I think it was almost like a renaissance of British filmmaking that I don't know if it didn't take off huge, but he was sort of involved with that in like a studio exec level, right?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yeah. Okay.
What else? He thought he contracted multiple sclerosis at one point in his life, and it was a complete hoax. I mean, he went, non-gluten, and he was like, drinking wheatgrass and stuff for years. And then he found out that he didn't actually have multiple sclerosis.
It's like a misdiagnosis.
It sounds like, Jim Carrey. It was, but I don't think during a time when, going gluten-free was not that popular, so.
But he was misdiagnosed. I think he didn't,
right.
It wasn't like a publicity stunt.
Yeah. He thought he actually had it.
I wonder how that would affect a person to think they have the life-threatening illness like that, and then find out years later that they don't. Yeah. I saw that he was married to Nanette Newman, who was in this movie.
Yeah, he had two wives, and his second wife, Nanette, Smith? But anyway, he cast her as
Newman. Yeah.
The first Stepford wife that Joanna runs into in the 1975 version. And
she's like the tennis player, right?
Yeah, I think she is the tennis player. No. She's the one that's automatically a robot. She's the one
that's like lives next door.
She's the one in the parking lot that tries to back out of her parking spot, and she kind of malfunctions, and she keeps repeating herself.
Oh.
Right. That's her. And she's British as well. What else? that's pretty much all I got. I mean,
All right.
he's a lot better known in Britain, and made the Stepford Wives in 1975.
Okay, that works. Then let's get into the 75 movie. Will, do you want to give us just not a necessarily synopsis, but just kind of say how that movie was different than the book?
Well, that movie was actually pretty close to the book. It followed it fairly close, and had some minor differences. It kind of emphasized the robotic nature of the woman and had them like repeating phrases over and over again, as opposed to having mechanical, repetitive behavior. It had that scene where one woman was going around like a robot having a malfunction, asking people like, "I must get the recipe. I must get the recipe." Things like that.
Yeah,
and it had more. It actually showcased more of the emotions of the people in the men's club. There was a scene where a man was crying, and the next scene, his wife's a robot or an android, but I'd say it was a pretty faithful depiction of the spirit. So, but again, this is satire done well done. But it was the 75 version was just pure 70s. The lead actress was amazing. It was just it was
Katharine Ross.
Katharine Ross, love her from The Graduate. For everybody else out there, and it was great.
Did she play opposite Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
That was her.
Wow.
Yeah, she's done a lot of amazing things. She was in Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid too. She was love interest in that. I mean, she's launched 1,000 Wet Dreams for kids in the 60s and 70s.
Now the husband, who played the husband? Was that Masterson? Did you guys feel like he was more menacing than the character in the book? I think he almost he's kind of more threatening her violently.
I think he was threatening with just sort of like his silence. He wasn't upfront with her, and I think the character in the book he was a lot more upfront, and you had a sense that he was on her side in the book, and in the movie he was quiet, kind of creepy.
Yeah, Peter Masterson. And at one point I think he's like physically challenging her more than the character in the book. Felt like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really didn't enjoy the movie though. I just thought it was kind of like a malaise. I mean, there was a point in the movie where I think the Joanna and Walter are like sitting in the living room, and there's just dead air. No one's talking. It's just the scene, and it's a still scene, and. Mm-hmm. I mean,
and she complains about that.
Who complains about it?
She says, Joanne, she said, that back in the city, he would never associate with people like that. Cause I think she kind of felt like they were boring. And she's like,
so it's a bit reflective of suburban life in Stanford, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. She felt like this is awkward. She's like, why, it's like she felt that he was changing.
Right. Right. And I did see this movie after I had seen the 2004 version, which is just packed with satire, comedy. It's hilarious. This one, it's more of an art film, and it's a cult classic. It's got a cult following.
Well, I gotta call you out on that one. I don't think it's an art film. I think it's a 70s film. Big difference.
It's a 70s film,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. If they made it now, it'd be an art film. But like, if you're a Simpsons fans, they've made numerous references to this film in episodes of The Simpsons with Marge as a housewife. At least 3.
Yeah.
Especially in the Hank Scorpio episode in particular. To me, this film was pure horror. I love this film. It was scary. It built up. It had the same feel as Rosemary's Baby and The Omen. These underlying, I don't know, like you can't trust the world around you kind of thing. I thought it was a great example of a 70s horror movie. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I wouldn't call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and really, the other movie, people hate on this movie. I'm not going to hate on the new movie because I think there's a lot of humor in the Stepford Wives that was not tapped.
Right.
And they tapped it because it's satire without humor. The book.
And the second, this one isn't really. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of humor, but it's more of a horror tale. And
yeah,
I also felt the musical score was kind of heavy on this, and I didn't care for it as much. It made it feel a little bit more dated. But I enjoyed this version.
Which one?
The 75 version. Yeah. And I think that the guy, was it the guy who produced this, ended up making like 3 more like made for TV spin-offs. The Stepford Children, the Stepford Husbands,
Revenge of the Stepford Wives, that was one too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who was that guy that ended up producing all these? It was like the same person involved with all of them. Was it this Edgar Schreck or William Goldman maybe? But there was a bunch of spin-offs. I don't think that any of them were very successful compared to this movie. This movie was, I think, is more successful.
Yeah, I mean, once you kind of use that concept, it's just kind of like this horror that's been passed around. I mean, I can't see how you would be like enjoying something further than what the book and the story, initially establishes. It kind of gets used up. There's no more element of surprise, and really that element of surprise is the element of horror. And I mean, for me, there's very little horror, but I mean, if you want to consider it a horror movie, that's all you got, Mm-hmm. And you can't really recycle that. It's a one-time event. And, once the reveal happens, you got to move on to the next magic trick. And
Well, but I mean, a lot of horror movies have sequels, and I mean, like, look at Friday the 13th or any of those movies. They frequently have sequels.
Those movies are more about sort of action and the physicality of horror, though.
Than this thing is. Yeah.
You can run that like a faucet all day and night for years, okay, and people will just come back for more. Once you use up like a concept of horror, I think it's spent. All
right. Well, sorry,
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Then let's go into the 2004 remake that was directed by Frank Oz, starring Nicole Kidman. Do you want to give us a little background on Frank Oz?
Yeah, a little bit.
I think fairly well known.
Frank Oz is well known. I found it very interesting that not only he was a professional puppeteer, but his parents were puppeteers as well in England. He was born in England, and I just found that just out of this world. I mean, I just think that would be kind of cool to grow up in a family like that. I think that was more like a side job, but obviously it inspired Frank Oz to articulate all the Muppets in the Muppets and in Sesame Street. And he actually articulated Yoda in Star Wars, which I think everyone should know.
Yeah.
He also did all the voices. He did Miss Piggy. He was Yoda. I think he was Fozzie the Bear.
Yep.
So we all pretty much grew up with Frank
Grover,
Oz.
Bert, Cookie Monster.
Right.
Yeah.
My favorite.
That interview I saw.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. There was an interview. Frank Oz reflecting on his life, and the interviewer was saying, that with the puppets that they wanted Frank Oz because he did the voice work, and Frank Oz was vehemently against that. And he said that for puppets, everyone thinks the voice is the important thing because of animation. He's like, but puppets, it's only 10% the voice. Mm-hmm. The rest of it is the actual movement and action of the puppets.
Right. Yeah.
And he said that was, the puppet was a complete thing. He's like, if you tried to do Sesame Street as a radio play and you didn't have the puppets, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So he really downplayed his voice work.
Yeah. There is quite it's an art form of articulating these Muppets. And if you watch Sesame Street, I watch it quite often with my kids. You can see the emotion in these Muppets. It's so,
and he credited,
it's real,
He credited that a lot to to Jim Henson, because he worked with Jim Henson, of course. And Jim Henson was like his boss, and they later became friends and very, very close. And he said that, how he pointed out some ways that Jim Henson really revolutionized puppets by making these softer puppets that could show more emotion. Back in the day, puppets were more like hard figures, and they were always like kings and queens and stuff. And that was.
Yeah, the puppets in Sesame Street were among the first to use fleece. Like the new material. The puppets. The material that they used was kind of like a new breakthrough. It was fleece, and it was stretchy, and it was soft, and it had like a nice, basically, texture to it. So it allowed the artist to kind of be creative. But anyway, my favorite Frank Oz moment is when he was in Trading Places and he was acting as the cop. That's just how I remember him, and I think he's still alive, right?
Yeah. No, wait. Was that Blues Brothers or Trading Places?
Trading Places.
Trading Places.
Did I say Blues Brothers? No.
Well, what did he do in Trading Places? Because he
was the cop when Dan Aykroyd's character was taken into the Philadelphia, police station.
Angel Dust? The Angel Dust guy?
Right. That's him.
That's fucked up because he's the cop in the Blues Brothers too.
No shit. Yeah, that's
one
right.
One Procreative used.
Well, he knows those guys from Saturday Night Live, right? Because the Muppets were on Saturday Night Live for some time early on.
Jim Henson was on Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
Do you know what this does to kids? Do you know what this does to children?
No, that's crazy. Okay, yeah, that's fun. Yeah, he makes the same role.
Right.
Two classic comedies from the '80s. Yeah, it's great.
Frank Oz, he also said he very much emphasized he very much enjoyed his time doing Sesame Street and doing puppet work, but he never was he wanted to do other things. He wanted to direct.
Well,
and he always looked at puppetry as just something else that he did. He said he didn't want to say he didn't like it. He did like it a lot. But he wasn't into puppets in general. And he liked doing the puppetry with Henson because he thought Henson was very, amazing and really innovative. And that's what attracted him to working on that stuff with Henson.
He's directed 3 movies that I really love. Little Shop of Horrors.
Mm-hmm. That was his first.
Yeah.
It was not. But What About Bob? A comedy.
Yep.
And he did Death at a Funeral, which is an English movie that was remade as an American movie, but they're both hilarious. He did The Dark Crystal. That was his first movie. That's why I've been saying that. That was...
He directed that?
Yeah.
He did.
Well, he did it with Henson, and he kind of downplayed his role in the interview. He said it was really Henson's thing, but Henson asked him to come on because Henson thought he would help make it better. And that movie is awesome. Oh. I love that movie, and they really had innovative puppet work in that movie.
Well, true story. On my first really good date with Laura, we watched Dark Crystal at my house. That was the pretense of her coming over, was to watch Dark Crystal with me.
That was your first date?
Yeah. Well,
kinda.
That's how he tricked her into coming over.
It was our first really good date. It's the first time I got her at my house.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Good.
Do you want to come over and watch the Dark Crystal?
I'm like, hey, I got the Dark Crystal. She's like, I'll bring over Trailer Park of Terror and watch both those movies. And we never look back. That's inappropriate.
The Dark Crystal has spawned more relationships.
It has. We also like Labyrinth.
Maybe that's something you add to your Kindle profile, right? Big fan of Dark Crystal.
Kindle,
big fan.
I think you mean online dating profile.
Yeah, whatever that is.
He did Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. God, I love that movie. That movie's just hilarious. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Do you have anything else to add about him, Rick, or are we gonna move into the movie?
No, he's just had this illustrious career. Love the guy.
I got one fact about him. He's got integrity. He wouldn't voice the Muppets in the new Muppet movie because he thought it was too risque of humor. Thought there was too many fart jokes, and he didn't want to have any part in voicing Grover and those characters that he had voiced for years.
Yeah, he's stuck up.
He's stuck up. Yeah. He hates farts. He's British. He hates farts.
He may not like nepotism because it was Jim Henson's son who ran the show, right?
He was really close with Henson, and I think losing Henson was a pretty impact.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
He probably is close.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how he is with their family, but
Henson's a whole. Yeah, we should do some Henson stuff sometime.
But he's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
But you're right. I think Frank Oz has a lot of integrity, and I think
people like him in the industry. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think he said, because he was asking him how he felt about Disney taking over the Muppets and stuff, and he kind of just was, he almost was saying like they were becoming more, how do I put it?
Sensationalist and not storytelling based.
More like they weren't. It seemed like he was almost saying like they didn't have as much depth. Like the characters weren't getting into it as much. It was more like just kind of like happy go lucky. Like I don't know if I don't know if I'm saying correctly how he was articulating it.
Okay,
he's like it's just different.
This was some criticism by George Lucas of Disney after they had bought the franchise Star Wars and made the what is it, the 9th movie or something like that just came out recently.
Force Awakens. Yeah,
he was saying that Disney focused mostly on the commercial aspects of Star Wars, and they got away from the storytelling and the originality. If you look at every one of the previous stories, they were all extremely unique. What Disney did was sort of like it was like Star Wars greatest hits, basically. And
come on! Okay, are we going to talk about Star Wars? Because
no, that's a whole. That's
like Star Wars. That's like a whole other body. I mean, I feel like you're baiting me here, but real quick, Star Wars.
Keep it Yoda.
We're just talking about what Disney does to artwork.
Bullshit. Star Wars is a Western. J.J. Abrams made a great space Western.
I don't disagree
Westerns
with that.
are the same. It's like there's always an evil rancher. There's always a Death Star. It doesn't really matter. You just want an excuse.
The world doesn't need another Death Star.
Yeah, well, it's a Death Planet, but you just want to go. Like, is your mind really? Are you that upset that it's like a similar plot? No, you just want to sit there for 2 hours or 2.5 hours and like watch Star Wars. That's all. That's all it is, man.
All right. Let's not get into the Star Wars show.
Yeah. That's what Disney gave us.
Let's get into Stepford Wives 2004. Mm-hmm. Well, so, I mean, this movie is a lot more different than the book and the other movie. It's more humorous. It's really heavy on the humor.
It is.
They also get really into the men's association. Matthew Broderick is the husband, and Bette Midler plays Bobby. Dale Koba, or the guy that is the head of the men's association, is played by Christopher Walken. So it's an all-star cast.
Yeah.
lots of talent in this movie. But
I especially
it
like
wasn't a
this
huge
movie.
hit. It wasn't a huge.
Yeah.
It wasn't a huge hit. Well, why don't you tell us some of the main differences on this one?
They gutted the movie. They put humor in. They took out the essence of the movie. And in this movie, the women weren't being murdered, and that to me ruined the movie. In a sense, they were being modified. It could be reversed. It was a lighthearted comedy. And again, I think you could have made it a very dark comedy, and this was not a dark comedy, and that's where it lost its way in terms of box office. But I liked it. It was okay. Full disclosure: Laura hates this movie. She's a purist, but I mean, like, it's not a horror movie. It's not scary. It's a bastardization, but of the original Stepford Wives. To me,
tremendously more entertaining.
It's got a twist ending.
It does.
Glenn Close is the wife of the main male guy from the association, but
they put in that twist.
Yeah, she ends up.
She's the queen bee.
She's the one behind it all. Right. All of it. It's not really the men,
right?
Because her husband, who's running the men's association, is also an android,
right? But I mean, it's a dichotomy between the two movies, though, where the first one has no humor, this one has a lot of humor. I think you gotta the twain should meet. I mean, they're both good movies in their own right. But this one, it really is not faithful to the book, but I enjoyed it. It was a decent flick, worth watching.
Okay, guys, Glenn Close, she was the queen bee of the system going on in Stepford, right?
Right.
Ryan, do you think that has any kind of like feminist ramifications? I mean, is it sort of like a yearning to go back to the olden times or what?
I felt like he wanted to do a different take on it, and I applaud that effort to try to do something more original. By having, it's really a woman behind all of it, and she just like wants to be in this, I guess, traditional role, and she wants everyone to just kind of be, I guess, going towards like this, what she feels is a perfect harmony of suburban lifestyle. And I think that's great that Frank Oz took that artistic risk, although ultimately I felt like this one fell more flat.
Wow.
I enjoyed the older one a lot more.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's the exact inverse of what I feel. I mean, this movie was packed with comic relief. They did exactly what I wanted to see with the men in the story and in the first movie. They completely exploited their flaws. They're a bunch of geeks basically out on a Friday night going to an engineering party. Yeah. And it's just that's what I wanted to see. And it was good. It was great.
You got it.
Yeah. I got it. Yeah. What else?
To me, I guess that's what didn't work. Yeah, I guess I agree with Wilk in that it tried to go more humor and then it lost something in the process. I applaud the artistic effort to try something different. I just think it ultimately worked. And it's interesting, Wilk, you almost say it's almost like if they would have done this as like a dark humor, I wonder if that would have worked a lot more for me.
Dark humor, it seems like right for dark humor. Like the remake, the money. Yeah, I mean, I just think they
and this is not dark.
It's not horror, no.
It lacked evil,
not
and
suspense
frankly,
either.
The Glenn Close ending was kind of a cop-out. It made the woman, the essence of the Stepford Wives is the women aren't the bad guys, they're the victims, and the men are the bad guys, and, you play those archetypes, and I don't know, it needed a little bit, it could have been darker, I guess.
I think that took some balls by, whoever wrote the screenplay, which I thought was extremely rich compared to the screenplay that was done for the 1975 movie. I mean, Diane Keaton interviewed for the movie. She took the script, she gave it to her analyst, and the analyst said, "Don't go into this movie. The script sucks. Okay, you're not gonna do this."
Really?
Yes.
They were right. It bombed out. So
yeah,
it was a bad story. I mean, the ending kind of sucked, in my opinion. I mean,
I think the actors did a good job. Even. It just, something was missing.
I mean, Christopher Walken can be very menacing. He should have been the bad guy. I mean, like, I don't know, a little bit of blood. I'm saying that's
Glenn Close, though, she was in that movie with Michael Douglas, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying that was a cop out, though. Making the woman the head henchman is really against the whole spirit of the book, in my opinion. So,
I mean,
I don't know how that's like the cop out or easy way out. I mean, I think that takes balls.
I think it does take balls, but I just think it didn't execute well enough. I mean, maybe if they had more menace in it.
I thought it was executed like a clock.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that maybe the cheesiness of it just it kind of killed it more, if it would have been like a more darker humor.
It was cheesy, but I thought it was sort of reflective on, the quote unquote horror. And I just thought it was accentuating what already existed, but pulled out all of the satire and put it right out on the plate. And the writing did superbly well doing that. It was just, I'd see that movie again, and I usually don't see a movie more than once, except for Star Wars or something, you know?
Rick, how'd you like Matthew Broderick's performance?
I thought it fit him and his sort of demeanor perfectly.
I can see
He's got a weak character,
and he played it well.
Basically, he's frozen in time as Ferris Bueller. Okay, he can never grow up, and once he does, he's kind of like this pushover guy. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was great casting. I thought the entire cast in this movie was perfect. Glenn Close's character was great. Walken's character was great. You got to see all of the Stepford Wives, or more of them than what the original movie showed. There was more of an environment going on. There was more atmosphere, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. But Wilk, it didn't ultimately work for you.
Well, I mean, it was entertaining, but it was nowhere near as good as the 75 version, in my opinion.
All right, well, let's just, I think that's good. Let's give our final comments and star ratings. Wilk, let's go to you. On the movies, just the movies.
Well, again, the 75 movie, there's not a great format to watch it in, but like, if you love 70s horror, I'd say 4.5 stars. It's everything you want. It's got one of the most amazing actresses of that era, Katharine Ross, who's just a beauty and captures the essence of the 60s and 70s and just the way that she looks and walks and talks, and it's great. Stepford Wives, 2004. It's the kind of movie you watch on an airplane. You're happy that you're not going to crash and die. It entertains you. I mean, yeah. I mean, seriously, if you have a Xanax moment, if you have a few drinks, it's not a bad movie. It's just not a great movie. I'd give the 75 version 4.5 stars. I'd give the 2004 version 2.5 stars out of 5.
Okay, Rick.
Yeah, the 75 version put me to sleep. I didn't really know exactly, how the screenwriter kind of got the job. They could have made that screenplay a lot better, but it wasn't great at all. And, the actress and, she was great, but it kind of put me to sleep. It was just this big malaise of 2 hours, and I actually fell asleep at the end. But new movie, loved it. It was kind of packed full of great dialogue, and I think I just generally enjoy the contemporary versions much more than I do the antiquated version. And I don't understand how this is a cult classic, the 75 version. I don't know why people like it so much. It's just, maybe people like 70s movies, and it's just kind of like a fetish thing, but I don't see the entertainment value in the 75 version.
I'm sorry, did you give your star ratings? I didn't hear.
Oh, star ratings? 75 version, it just wasn't for me. I'll give it like 1.5 star, and the 2004 version, I'll give 4 stars.
Okay. And I'll say that I enjoyed the 75 version a lot more than the 2000 version. I'll probably give the 75 version like 3.5 stars, but I did really like it. And I'll give the 2004 version probably more like 2.5 stars. I think there's good elements to it. It's interesting to check out, to compare. And if you're interested in material, I'd recommend checking it out. But ultimately, I think that there's just something missing from it. So other than that, I'll invite everyone to listen next month. We're going to cover The Flowers for Algernon, which was written by Daniel Keyes. And there's 2 movie versions or film version. There was one called Charlie that came out in 1968, directed by Ralph Nelson, and another version that was known as Flowers for Algernon that came out in 2000 on TV, directed by Jeff Bleckner. So tune in next month for that. And otherwise, we'll invite everyone to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. We're also now on Stitcher Radio. We're on TuneIn Radio. You can also listen to us on YouTube and our YouTube channel. Subscribe, write reviews, give us ratings. That helps us with our rankings and keeps us going. And visit us at nodeodorant.com. And other than that, I will say goodnight to everyone. Good night. Goodbye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, or to read our show notes and find us on social media, visit nodeodorant.com. For more information on Ryan Sean O'Reilly and his various works of fiction, visit ryanseanoreilly.com. For more information on David Wilkinson, visit drycracker.com. For more information on Richard Mell, check out his profile at goodreads.com. The theme music for this podcast was written by John Doyle from the band I Decline. You can visit him at i-decline.com. voiceover for this podcast was provided by me, Margaret O'Reilly. Well, that concludes our episode. We hope you've learned a lot. Again, thanks for listening to our show. And always, always remember, there is no deodorant in outer space.
This works. Hello, check, check. Rick, I noticed when I hit the mute button on my mic, it's screwed it all up. So maybe don't use the mute button. Yeah, well, when I did it, it silenced it, and when I unmuted it, I wasn't getting WAV files anymore. So did you notice the WAV files go away at any point? Or no? Hello? Rick? Rick? He must have hit the mute button.
Will, can you hear this?
Yeah. What's up?
You hear this?
Yeah.
You hear that sound?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. You hear it now?
I could always hear it.
You hear it now?
Yes. So.
Wilk?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's up?
No,
It was entertaining. But
That's all right.
Oh, okay. Hey. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Are we done?
I think we're done.
Okay, so